In our gospel today, Jesus tells us, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do so will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys and teaches these commandments will be called greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And of course, one of the things that he's talking about is that we need to embrace our faith in its entirety, to embrace and believe in the whole of what God has revealed of himself to us. And this reminds me of one of the things that St. Thomas Aquinas teaches in the Summa Theologica, where he says, if a person rejects one article of faith, then they really don't have the gift of faith. Now, when St. Thomas Aquinas is saying that, he's not saying if a person feels uncertain about something or doesn't understand something. Instead, he's saying when a person chooses to actively reject something that God has revealed. But even that might sound a little bit harsh to us to say that person doesn't have faith. But what St. Thomas Aquinas is saying is this: faith is complete trust in God. So if a person is picking and choosing between different parts of God's revelation, what they're ultimately doing is saying, I like this part of God's revelation, so I'm going to embrace it. But I don't like this part, so I'm going to reject it. And so they're not trusting in God, they're just trusting in themselves and in their own judgment. The Catechism talks about faith in this way. It says, faith is first of all personal adherence of man to God, and at the same time and inseparably, it is a free assent to the whole truth that God has revealed. And so, as we hear Jesus tell us about this in the gospel, it can be a good moment for us to reflect on our own lives and in our own hearts, to think, are there parts of my life where I break a smallest part of God's law, or that I omit a smallest letter of God's teaching through the scripture or through tradition? May all of us be given that gift of faith and embrace all that God teaches us, because he teaches it out of love for us. And knowing and personally adhering to God and embracing that gift of faith and all that God has given us, we will look forward to sharing the life of the blessed in heaven.